What's up, YouTube? We're here at my high school today interviewing one of my favorite, if not the best teacher in Hyde Gardens. So, can you introduce yourself for the camera?
My name is Mr. Chi. I've been teaching in the public schools for 42 years.
When did you start teaching? What age? What inspired you to teach students, especially high schoolers?
Well, it's a rather long story, but I'll make it as brief as possible. I was considering 5 different fields of going in that I would like to go into. And I was inspired by, believe it or not, my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Gertrude Park, who was a legend. And after watching her operate when I was in school, and then later as I gave it some thought about what I wanted to do, I think that was really the catalyst, the reason why I decided to go into education.
So she influenced you to join the educational field.
Yeah, she was a tough woman. She was a legend. Everglades Elementary School here in Miami. And everybody that knew her was influenced by her. I certainly was, and I was very grateful for what she taught me, and a lot of it I've used in my classrooms subsequently since then.
How do you feel like a lot of students that quote unquote say they give too much work? How do you feel about that from that perspective?
Well, quite frankly, some teachers do. I'm not one of those people. I'm one of those people that utilize my classroom time to the best of my ability. And so whatever I want to teach, I make sure it's within the confines of my class period. That's why I don't give any homework. That's why I don't give any projects. And if I were to give a project, it would be during class time. Okay, the students have lives outside of school, outside of my classroom. And so to that end, I want to make sure that I respect that. And therefore, I don't give them any homework, never have, or don't make them do any projects. And furthermore, it helps them be able to focus more on other classes and what's demanded by other teachers.
Right. And
quite honestly, a lot of times if you give them work to do outside of the class, it's just going to be AI generated anyway, so it's pointless.
Okay. What is your perspective on this new generation and the AI that they use? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it?
Well, quite honestly, I mean, I tell my students, and I closely monitor AI. I tell them that AI means artificial intelligence, in case they don't know, and that I believe in RI, which is real intelligence. In other words, when they walk in my classroom, and there are certain assignments that they're not allowed to use their phones, and that's because I want their opinion. I want them to think. I don't want some artificial information coming into their minds, which very often is inaccurate and not true anyway.
How do you feel with you giving out vocabulary? I feel like a lot of students think that it's a lot of work writing the 20 vocabularies and giving the definition. How do you feel like on that perspective, like how students think that you're a bad teacher?
I'm doing what I've known to be successful for more than 40 years. No matter what subject matter you're talking about, whether you're talking about repairing an automobile or the field of law or anything in between, you have to know the language to be able to understand what's going on. So if I'm a coach and I say something about baseball, and I use phrases like, oh, he hit a dinger when the bases were jacked, and they gave him 4 ribbies. Most people would have no idea what I'm talking about, but if I explained it to them what those terms mean,
They'll understand.
they would understand, yeah, and they can absorb it a little bit, and that goes for any profession.
If it was not teaching a career, if you would have not chosen teaching as a career, what would you have chosen instead? And I know you have experience as I believe, a college baseball coach. I believe high school coach as well.
Yes.
And
Optimist or Little League level.
Little League level.
Done it all.
So how do you feel with the coaching, and would you have taken that instead of teaching?
Well, I don't think I would have ever wanted to fully step outside of the classroom, because if I had, I would have gone into counseling, I would have gone into administration, not interested in any of that stuff. Coaching, a very strong possibility, yes, but there's one catch with coaching at the collegiate and professional level is you have to be a nomad. You have to be willing to move from one city to another, and I'm not that type of person. So another profession, I would have wanted to be a veterinarian. However, to be perfectly honest, it's not something that I would want to spend another 8 years of school to do in order to to be able to do it. So that's one of the reasons. But if I had to, that would be a second choice.
I've noticed that throughout last year and this year, since I have you as a TA teacher, as a teacher assistant, what are some comments that you could give about me to these amazing, beautiful subscribers of mine today?
Huh. Let me be selective in the way I say this. Perhaps I would say a C student, and yet responsible, helpful, honest, and when I ask him to be, hardworking.
What do you feel about Rip Van Winkle from last year? How do you feel about him?
Do you know the tale of Rip Van Winkle?
Let me hear it.
Okay, the tale of Rip Van Winkle, in short, is the idea that a man fell asleep for 20 years and didn't wake up. And then when he woke up, the world was completely different. Okay, that's when I call you Rip Van Winkle. It's because of your tendency, when you had to be in a regular class, to take little nappy poos throughout the day. However, as I said, you were able to pull it off.
What can I say? I'm him.
That's it.
I just really show
That's
him.
you.
I realized you used a lot of pen in your class. Is there a certain reasoning for that, or is that just because you prefer a pen work than pencil?
Oh, you mean that they manually have to write in pen? Yeah, the main reason is a lot of people that use pencil simply don't use any pressure on the pencil, and I can't read the work that that they're doing. And I have to grade one assignment. I have to grade 160 papers or whatever it might be.
Okay.
And I don't have time to try to decipher papers. I just finally realized that I was better off to make the rules steadfast. It's got to be a pen.
Alright. I realized that in the beginning of your course, from last year and this year, the first lesson they teach to introduce your class is the signature. Why is that such an important detail in life, and why would these young students need to use that at this age?
Okay. Well, cursive is something that kids are not taught these days, even though it's supposed to be taught. Fair enough. But when they leave my classroom, I do teach personal finance and management. And when they leave my class, they have to understand that there are certain documents that they must sign, and they must have a signature. If you print something, anybody can copy that. A signature is what I call your financial fingerprint. Nobody can copy it. And furthermore, if you're a victim of fraud, let's say, because a document was signed in your name, all they would have to do is contact their institution wherever they keep their money. And they'll have their signature on file, and then therefore they're not liable for it. And there are places that ask you for an electronic signature, which is simply you typing your name in. But again, you can fall victim to fraud fairly easily.
True.
It's happened to me on more than one occasion where my accounts have been hacked, and once they look at the signature, they realize it's not mine, stop payment, and I'm not responsible for it. And that's the main reason why we do it.
So I know you're really big into your movies in your class. No judgment, they're amazing movies.
Okay.
But with Saving Private Ryan and The Pianist, I realized that those two have a very common war era. What can you say about your late father who served in the war?
Well, first of all, I want to say about my dad that he was the best man I ever knew. And he served his country in World War II, fought against the Japanese in the Pacific. He saw things that no human being would ever want to see. He shared those stories with me later in his life when he realized that he had limited time. And I was able to share that with my own two kids, my daughter and my son. And then share with my adopted son, my adopted son, our children, I should say, my students. It's important that they understand the sacrifice that people made for them to have the things that we all have in this country. And I think that the best way to understand it is from a person's first-hand experiences. And so the movies I show, yes, those two have military themes, but there's two other movies I show that you didn't mention.
Which is The
Forrest Gump.
Which I want to say, if you haven't watched it, you must go watch it. Because you know what they say, stupid is as stupid does.
And the other one, of course, is The Shawshank Redemption.
Which that movie is very, very sad, in my opinion.
Great film.
Great film. Those are great films. We're gonna have to wrap this up. We have like about 6-7 minutes. No pun intended, guys. No, don't put in the comments. That's gonna be a thing now. So, How do you feel that this year is coming to an end? What is something that your students in the first half have taught you, and in the second half have taught you?
Okay. In the first half, one of my students, and he's sitting in my room as we speak, taught me something that I will use for the remainder of my teaching career. And it's a practical one. When I issue students passes to leave the classroom, they have to give me their phones in return. And that has helped me a great deal to keep track of
How many passes are out?
right, and that they be returned and all that. That's from the first half of the year. From the second half of the year, what I realized is that when I ask a student to do an essay for the movies, I make sure that I collect their phones, because even when I ask for their opinions, which are all these, what I give on the type of essays I give on movies, they will still use AI and cheat. And so therefore, those are, I don't allow them to. And so those are two things I learned, one from the first half of the year and the second half of the year, from my students, that have actually helped me become a better teacher.
Okay, because I think when people are watching this and you're talking about these essays, explain to them how long are these essays so they understand that it's not a full 2-page long
Well, the
essay.
essays are never a review of the film. The essays are questions that they have to apply to their own lives and that they have to think about. Okay, for instance, The Saving Private Ryan is not a recap of the movie, but there's 3 parts to the essay, and one of those questions is, was it worth the sacrifice of 6 lives to save one man's life? So these are the type of questions that I ask, so that it brings it home in a more personal way, not just simply a recap of it.
In your opinion, do you think it was worth it?
Absolutely. That's the code of the military. Okay, and that is no man is left behind. And it might be dangerous, it may not be something people accept, but it is part of military policy, and it's something that I respect a great deal.
Now, to end off the video, what is one piece of advice that you could give to the young kids and the next generation of people that will be seeing this video?
With respect to
Life in
Any-
general,
any-
anything.
anything? Well, first I'll use my catchphrase, get her done. And you only get out of life, I know this is rather pedantic, but you're only going to get out of life what you put into it. Okay, there are too many people today, in my opinion, that walk around, particularly this generation, who feel entitled, that they're supposed to receive this, that, or the other without having to work for it. The fact of the matter is still true. Our culture today is built on meritocracy. Work hard, and you'll get what you deserve.
Well, thank you for having this lovely time with me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.